Please don't push me.
Please don't push me, but y'all push B. Now we got dwellers from Cali to Flatbush B. Now they got heat on their feet that say press B. And now we so deep in the streets, y'all can't stress me. Can't curse me, then bless me. I'm crucifying my flesh, that's less me. SAT'd from preaching, can't test me. Atheists are now believing, that bless me. Yeah, we got the basement replacing any of those worldly pursuits that y'all chasing, any of those trials and tests that y'all facing, any of the relationships that y'all changing. We rearranging, making the shame shift, giving Satan back what's his, that's the blame shift. Rise up and walk commands, that's the lame shift. Cheat codes for living this life, that's the game shift. All on Yeshua, man, the rest is manure, man. I'm dying daily, so I rise up a purer man. Pressing B daily, so my sins looking fewer, man. Washing the blood, so my sins down the sewer, man. Yeah, so press B with me, and let's let whatever gon' be just be. Yeah, so press B with me, and let's let whatever gon' be just be. Welcome to the basement, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Tim Ross. I hope you're all doing well today. I am so grateful that you are rocking with us. Thank you for pressing B. If you are a B-sider, hold up, wait. You already got down here? You're already subscribed? That means you see everything first. Please don't gloat, right? Please don't be one of those people because you see all of our content first, that you get all the inside information to our exclusive events, that you get all of the details before anybody else, that you don't that you've never seen a 30-minute mashup on YouTube because you're like, really? What is that? I'm a subscriber to the B-side. What is a 30-minute mashup? Why would I ever watch a 30-minute mashup when I see the whole thing on my phone, in my app? Shout out to my B-siders. I love you guys so much. And to all of my dwellers from around the world, whether you are a B-sider or not, thank you so much for pressing B. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for making vulnerability a safe space and a safe place for people to be a part of. Listen, I'm super excited today because you know what? We had to go back to the bag. Let me explain this bag I'm talking about. We had to go back to the OG bag. And I know some of y'all, see, here's the thing. Some of y'all thought that we forgot about the bag. Huh? Some of y'all actually think we didn't secure the bag. But we actually did secure the bag. And good things come to those who wait. Let me tell you something. Patience is the thing. If I start talking about patience right now, I mean, we could be here for like 7 hours, which would mean you would have to have a lot of patience with this pod. I'm so excited. We went back to the Google Forms, people. Forma de Google. Yeah, that's correct, right? Forma de Google. We went back to those Google Forms, and we found OG dwellers who filled out the original Google form when we put the Google form out. Because y'all thought we forgot, huh? Yeah, you did say so. You forgot. You thought we literally forgot about it. We did not. And we back at it like crack addicts. So I'm super excited because we went in those Google forms. We have a couple. Not one. Not two. A married couple, which means they're actually one. So yeah.
2 and 1.
Yeah, they're 2 and 1. Absolutely. So listen, y'all, this is the very first time that they're on. I'm super excited. They are local, DFW. They drove here. They took a little field trip. Stopped at Buc-ee's. Yep. Got disappointed by Buc-ee's. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm introducing to some and presenting to others for the very first time. Josue and Monica are on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go! Yeah.
Hola.
Hola. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Sí.
I think we've reached the extent of Monica's Spanish, by the way.
That's not true.
Hola, muy bien. We're tapped.
No, that's not true. Her accent's way too good for that to be the case. I'm so grateful that y'all are here.
Thank you for having us.
That y'all came together is really, really dope. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Monica doesn't have a car right now, so
I
she had
don't.
no options. She's like, "Hey, I got invited. Can you give me a ride?" I was like,
He was my ride here.
"I was like, as
so-
far as we go, I'm gonna have to be on too because that's a long commute."
Josue got him the pod by being the driver. Josue's like, I'm just here for moral support. I didn't fill out the Google form. My wife did. No questions can be lobbed at me. I don't have to answer anything. That's dope. Well, I'm glad y'all are here.
Thank you for having us.
And Josue, thank you for driving.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you because that
4
is
stars.
4 stars. You want 4 stars on the?
We had water. We stopped at Buc-ee's. I
That's a
gotta
whole
get
field
4
trip,
stars.
Yeah.
That's great. But isn't it like? Can't you get 5 on like Uber? Don't you want 5 stars?
I mean, I've had
I'm realistic. The conversation wasn't that
Yeah,
good on the
it
way
was
up here.
just
Okay.
We were storing everything up, so we
Yep.
didn't really talk. It was just
we were saving our conversations for this morning.
Hey, bro, like I love the self-awareness though. He's like, just give me 4 stars. No, I would like to give you 5. No. My conversation lacked.
Yeah.
I lacked conversation. So only 4 is
It was
the
a
high.
quiet ride.
It was a quiet
Yeah.
ride. Well, in the morning, that's not a bad
It's
thing.
not
is
bad.
it? No, absolutely. For sure, for sure.
He's not a morning person.
I get it. Well, dude, you should get a 5 star. Okay, what you lack in conversation, you got up early.
early. The 1-star edition.
There you go.
There's your bonus star. I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate y'all being here. And, the question that I haven't got to ask in a very long time that I'm glad I get to ask now is, why did you fill out that Google form? Like, what made you fill out that Google form? If you even remember.
Well, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think it was mostly to be a guest.
Yeah.
A guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think we misunderstood the Google form.
Yeah.
We
Did
thought
you
we were
really?
gonna be like the live audience. Like
Yeah,
we were
I thought I was
gonna
gonna
sit in
be
the
like
back,
clapping. and-
laugh, and cheer.
I thought Hector was gonna run around with like clap, and we were gonna clap.
That would have been so antithetical to what we're about if we told y'all when to clap.
I don't know.
Y'all thought y'all were about to be a part of a live studio
Yeah,
audience.
pretty much.
Yeah, like y'all thought it was about to be like The Price is Right up
Yeah,
in here.
pretty much.
Yeah. And no.
No.
So when Julie reached out, we were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll come by and watch the podcast."
Y'all didn't even know you were going to be
So
on.
now we're just we figured it out.
I understand that.
There was some clarity.
Yeah, there's some clarity, and then we're just like, oh, okay, let's do this.
Well, okay, so I'm interested in that then. To think one thing and then find out another and still, because some people would have been like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they would have been like, nah, I'm that's okay. I thought it was different. So what made you still want to do it? Like once you found out what the real context was.
Well, for me, you want to answer? You want me to
No, go
Okay.
ahead. I'm just a driver. Here to steer conversation when it
Hey,
gets off course.
let's go, Josue. He's steering
He's a
the
mess.
conversation.
He's on one this morning.
I love it. I love it.
For me, whenever got clarity, it
Mm-hmm.
was more of just being in the season that I'm in.
Yeah.
And just going into this season and knowing that God was going to just be able to put me in situations to have conversations
Mm-hmm.
about subjects that probably normally I wouldn't be able to have in certain settings.
Yeah, for sure.
So just being open and honest about certain things. It's
Our
not
our
story
story.
and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. So we had a conversation at the beginning of this year, and I had told him, I'm like, I just feel like God's going to ask us to share more this year.
Wow.
And so we've had little opportunities here and there, just sharing with different people.
Yeah.
Things that normally we wouldn't share.
Yeah, for sure.
Now when Julie asked, we're like, okay, God, is this you
Yeah.
asking us to share?
Yeah.
And the timing of it was crazy because had we been invited, whenever the Google form initially came out,
would
Yeah.
have not
it would have been a
shared.
completely different conversation, a
Yeah.
completely different topic.
For sure. For
And
sure.
So I definitely think the timing of it was, when Monica called me on 3-way with Julie, didn't call me separately and ask me, you want to come?
Right,
She's like,
right.
hey, Julie's on the phone with us. She needs to ask us something. So it's not like I can say, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah. I mean, you could have.
I could have.
Yeah, for sure.
I
But-
thought Julie was calling to tell me she was pregnant. but that wasn't it.
We're gonna do that to Julie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julie.
Which she's not.
But
Let's
she's not.
clarify.
She's not.
Let's be clear. Not that we're aware of.
No, yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
no,
know
we-
anything.
we don't-
Insider information.
Yeah, we don't know if the club got shot up or not.
Yeah,
This is not our
no,
business.
It's not our business. Sorry, but that's what I thought she was calling to tell us because she wanted. She's like, "Is Josue there? I need to talk to you guys."
Yeah. Wow, that's very, very interesting. All right, so how long have y'all been married?
16 years. We've been married
16
16
years.
years. We've been together 22
22
years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's part of our story. We did everything backwards. So now when we do premarital counseling.
Yeah.
We tell people, hey, what we're telling you is from experience of doing things out of order.
We had
two
Talk
kids
about
at our
doing
wedding.
things out of order.
You had 2 kids at your wedding?
Yeah.
How old were they?
One and
5.
6.
No, 1 and 6. Yes.
1 and 6. Got you. Yeah, y'all been together a long time.
Yeah, we have.
If you have date questions, number questions, or expense questions, ask me.
Yeah.
Got you. I feel you.
That's why
Hey,
I keep
salute,
looking at
bro.
him.
Monica
Hey.
will be like, yeah, that was like $20. I was like, that was $800. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, no,
She
don't
saw
worry about
one
it.
receipt. She was like, "This was the best vacation we've ever had. Look at this one receipt for $20." That's really funny. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'm all dates, and Juliet is all color. Yeah, she has color commentary for everything, and I'm just like, on May 1st, 1999, this happened. On May 8th, 1999, this happened. Yeah, it's like, why did I do like the Law and Order voice? I don't even know. It's all good though. Okay, so okay, now you've piqued my interest, right? Like you had stories that if you were on 2 years ago would have been different than the stories that you feel like God's telling you to share now. So where would y'all like to start?
I think we jump in the deep end and we maybe work our way to the shallow end at some point.
I love it.
And so you're actually at the upsetting part of the story in all
Really?
terms of the definition.
Wow.
Was it 2022? 2022, Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yes.
And so you happened to be speaking at our church that weekend.
Yep.
Came out and said, hey, celebrate.
Yeah.
Everybody stands up, cheering, clapping,
Yeah.
shouting.
Yep.
We're sitting in the front row.
Yep.
Hundreds of people were leaders
Yep.
in our church.
Yep.
We don't stand, we don't clap because of our history, what we've walked through.
Yep.
And over the next couple of weeks, that scene continued to play out on Sundays or Saturdays or whatever it was, where, hey, let's cheer, let's celebrate. And for us, it was a very hard season.
Yeah.
I think a couple of weeks in, one of the pastors came up and he said, hey, I don't want you guys to misconstrue what has happened over the last few weeks as being insensitive to the women and the men that have walked through abortion.
Yeah.
And the pain they feel.
Yeah.
And I think he dropped a stat like 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4 women
Yeah.
in the state of Texas, or I can't remember what the context was, has had an abortion.
Yeah.
So in a room this size, there's hundreds
Oh,
of
for
women
sure. Absolutely.
who are feeling shame, they're feeling guilt.
Yeah.
And so, you've got you're in church and
Yeah.
you've got people standing and cheering.
Yeah.
And you're working through guilt
Yeah.
and shame
Yep.
and disappointment
Yeah.
and anger and
Yeah.
frustration. We had people reach out to us and they were like, hey, I think we're going to leave the church during this season. And we're like, hey, hold on. I mean, Monica will share a little bit, we were like, is this where we're supposed to be?
Yeah, for sure.
Is this the reaction that we came to receive
Yep.
at church? And
Yeah.
one of the things that came up, we get a chance to pray for people after church, after service. And so we would have women coming up for prayer
Yeah.
and saying, hey, I want prayer for something in my past that I feel shame about.
Yep.
Wouldn't say the word,
Yep.
couldn't communicate,
Yeah.
didn't want to truly say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with.
Right.
But we saw the back end of that response from the church.
Yeah.
And so it really, it was upsetting. It was an
Yeah.
upsetting season for us.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is it opened a door for Monica especially to start walking into healing and forgiveness. And I'll kind of hand it off to you there to talk a little bit about that. But that's really, and it started with the weekend it happened. You
Wow.
were at our church.
Wow.
You came up.
Wow.
Everybody's shouting.
Yeah,
And for
yeah,
us,
yeah.
it was not a shout moment.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's not that we don't believe in the sanctity of life. It
Right,
was
for
just
sure.
we're on the back end of this.
Absolutely.
With, it's like saying, hey, we've outlawed, living together if you're not married.
Right, for sure.
And people cheering, and you're like, well, shoot, we did that for 6 years.
Right.
Kids,
Exactly.
And,
yeah, for sure.
And so that was really, something that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We've been walking through that. And I think God's calling Monica especially, but now us as a couple, because as she started walking into what she's about to walk into, men have started popping up that need healing in this area.
Absolutely.
And rarely, it's something you don't really talk about is, hey, what are the impacts to the men involved in these stories? And so Monica shared with a friend of ours what God's put in her heart. And she's like, man, I'd love for me and my husband to be able to walk through and unpack. And Monica's like, well, wait a minute. No, I'm just talking about the women.
Right.
Well, what about
the men? Absolutely.
Y'all aren't doing this for men.
Right.
And so that's even a conversation that we're having is, hey, how do we approach this for couples? How do we approach this for men, for women that need healing and restoration after going through an abortion?
Absolutely.
And I don't know of any church body. It's not something that's announced, hey, here's what we've got coming up, text whatever.
Right, for sure.
Healing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just not something that's out there.
Yeah.
You think about 25% of your congregation, 25% of your community is hurting from this.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big questions coming out of it. I'm sorry, I forgot I was a driver.
No, go for it.
This is beautiful, bro. Yeah, I love this.
25% of where was I? 25% of our congregation.
Yeah, 25%.
And there's
going through this,
and there's
so
nothing.
there's
I mean, that was one of the questions we came out of this is, hey, that's great. The church is celebrating. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing for the restoration? What are you doing for the alternative?
Yeah.
We love the pro-love movement.
Yeah.
Huge fans of Embrace Grace.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love
Absolutely.
Embrace Grace.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And so, hey, how are we promoting that? How are we creating these alternatives? Because we can't talk out of both sides of our mouth.
Right.
And say, hey, we're pro-life.
Right.
But we're not doing anything to provide the support.
That's right.
The love.
For single
the
mothers.
acceptance.
Yeah.
I mean,
For single fathers. Yeah.
There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
And so how do we ramp these together?
Yeah, it's good.
How do we celebrate and provide? How do we, create this victory, but also create a space for healing?
Yep.
And so I'll kick it back off to you.
It's beautiful.
Tell Tim how he upset you. We're here. tell him how upset you were. Right? I mean, we already here. We jumped in. You made me get up early for something. Let's go.
Yes. As he was sharing, I was very upset.
Yeah.
But it had a lot to do with me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now looking back, it's obviously when you're upset about something, it's just something started stirring inside of me.
Yeah.
And I asked those questions. I'm like, from the platform, they said, we're here for you, but what are you guys doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked those hard questions and I demanded to know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need you to get on the phone right now and figure what do they have? They said it from the platform. What do they have?
Right.
And they didn't have anything in play yet. So that's where God started stirring inside me. He's like, this is what I've called you to speak about.
Yeah.
Those hard conversations,
Yeah.
that we're not having
Yeah.
in a church setting.
Yeah,
that,
for sure.
That it's society is making it sound like, okay, have an abortion, it's an easy solution for your problem. But they don't talk about the long life effects of it, the physically, emotionally, spiritually effects, mentally that it has on a woman and a man.
Yep.
So that's the season that I started 2 years ago. And obviously because we are upset about this and, I started going through a journey, and because that's in our past.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that,
Yeah.
that we walked through.
Yeah.
And that's something that I didn't touch for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked God, I'm like, God, if you really want me to do this, I have received your grace.
Mm-hmm.
I've done inner healing for over 20 years. I understand, you know what I mean, that you have forgiven me, all the churchy stuff.
Yeah,
right?
for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
For sure.
I'm, I understand it. I get it. But I just couldn't get over forgiving myself.
Mm.
And that shame and guilt that I felt for so many years that I just carried, it kept me from opportunities, from relationship. It almost cost me my marriage,
Yeah.
Just because I know you've said it before where you don't talk, what does he say?
When you don't have the words or the vocabulary for it. What doesn't come out in words comes out in other ways.
That's right.
One of
That's right.
one of your favorite quotes.
He always
Yeah,
tells you that.
absolutely.
Yeah, we use it a lot in marriage.
In marriage and in grief.
Yes, good. That's good.
And so it was coming out in all kinds of ways, numbing myself in all kinds of ways,
Yeah.
bitterness, just lashing out,
Yeah.
Easily offended. I mean,
Yeah.
you name it.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
walked through it for 20 plus years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
finally I was like, okay, God, if this is what you're asking me to do, then help me.
Yeah, for sure.
And he did.
That's
and
awesome.
So I did all the inner healing, but my last step of it was forgiving myself.
Yeah.
I just could not forgive myself for it.
Yeah.
And finally I went to an intensive retreat. I was able to walk through it, and I was at the end of that retreat, I was able to forgive myself. Wow. And after that, it was like, okay, God, what do you want
Yeah.
me to do with this?
Yeah, for sure.
And it was it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
And I thought it was corny, but then it was like, okay, it made sense at the end.
For sure.
And so I'm just grateful for God for opening that door for me. And now we're stepping into a season where we're going to bring some kind of ministry to our community and start abortion recovery support group for women and hopefully men. We're still in the works of it.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
We're having these conversations of let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I wasn't able to even hear the word abortion or pro-life without me physically reacting to it.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about you talked about
triggers.
triggers a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was a physical
Wow.
trigger.
Like it was just like you could just see me just start kind of getting like I would get up, go to the restroom
Yeah.
when they talked about it at church.
Yeah.
It was just something that was affecting me in every area.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like what are you doing, God?
Absolutely.
And he's just started working in us. So.
Yo, this story, wow, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. This is beautiful. All right, so I'm fascinated by everything that you all have shared. The thing that's like that I want to address first though is you all being triggered by what was said in that service, the reaction of the people of that service. I always talk about when you're triggered, you can become furious, which leads to an external kind of like, who triggered me? Screw that person. Screw these people. Screw this church, right? Let's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Double bird the church. We out. Let's find someplace else, right? So you can become furious, or you become curious, which leads you internal, which leads you to question more of why did that bother me so much, right? And that led to a completely different journey for you all than if it would have been.
I think for us it was both. The
It was both.
initial was a furious.
For sure, absolutely. But I would love to, because there's so many people that don't know how to like navigate that, right? And listen, I have never been a part of a church in my life that I got through 52 weekends or however many Sundays I attended that year, and somebody didn't piss me off or say something that I was like, the hell did he say that like that for? Or you know what I mean? Why
I didn't
would
hear that because that's me.
you,
weekend.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if you don't know how to navigate that, then you're gonna be at like 42 churches in 3 years. You know what I mean? So I'm interested in like how did those emotions present itself? How did y'all deal with it internally? How did y'all talk to each other? How did y'all get to the place where it's like, hey, y'all pissed me off, and then 2 years later we're gonna start a ministry and we're gonna help as many men and women as we can that have been struggling with this. That's fascinating.
So I would, for myself, we unpacked it.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We part of our history is our marriage as well. You know,
Yeah.
like that's a big testimony in itself, and
Yep.
we've done a lot of work.
Yep.
You know, and so we're at a place where we're able to have those tough conversations.
Yeah, good.
And be transparent.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, one thing, I have a lot of feelings and
Me
I
too.
like to talk about them.
Yeah.
And I used to not talk about them, and I would just harbor it all in,
Yep.
and it was not good.
Yeah.
So I've learned over the years, with a lot of help and
Yeah.
that I need to talk about my
Yeah,
feelings.
for sure.
And that's something that I just we just had a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is really upsetting me. I mean, we had those I'm like, should we leave? Are we in the wrong place? You know what I mean? Like, they don't see things like we do. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's too many, whatever. I won't go down
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
route.
I understand. Yeah.
But we had a lot of conversations, and I think also I would have conversations with my oversight, my
Yeah.
pastor that I worked with so closely, and I'm just like, hey, like, I'm thinking about leaving, and this is why.
Yeah, for
and just
sure.
navigating through it.
And I don't even at that point wasn't oversight. You know,
It
you
wasn't
weren't-
oversight.
You know, it
I
was
wasn't-
that was just your
I wasn't on
pastor.
staff, yeah.
You know,
I
and
was
I
a
think
pastor.
I
Yeah.
think there's something so big about having someone with maturity who loves you,
Yeah.
who will let you process and
Yeah.
isn't gonna, but then help you navigate that.
Yeah,
because
for
again,
sure.
this wasn't the first time we'd been triggered.
Yeah. For sure.
But I do think it was the first time where we had to do double conversations, right? We had to have our internal conversations, and then we have people who we have influence on, we've ministered to,
Yeah.
we know, we love, and they're calling us talking about, forget this church.
Yeah, yeah,
like
for
we're
sure.
out.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
we're having to walk people off the ledge.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
while we're having that
Yeah.
conversation, but there's a beauty in having, there's. Recently, we were at a funeral and somebody said, some people have a title and some people have the anointing
Yeah.
to pastor people.
Yeah. It's
And
absolutely
to
true.
have somebody in your life that truly will pastor you and lead you
Yeah.
and walk you through those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's something for, at least for Monica, that was new and different and created a safe space
Yeah.
to process this stuff.
Yeah.
And so just a little background right now that I said that it's new for Monica, she's PK.
Yeah.
Right. And dad was a pastor for,
Dad.
till
Old school
till he
Pentecostal.
passed.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. I
old
get
school,
it. I
you
get
know.
it. Yeah.
And so never
Going
had
to
a
hell for
pastor,
everything.
always had
Oh,
a
yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
It was always, it was
Yeah.
always not a pastor, it was a dad. So even having a pastor was something that was new
It was very new to
for
me.
us. And
Yeah.
that's allowed us to bring a lot of health to our marriage,
Yeah.
to this area that needed healing. But it was one of those things where, and she was allowed to be mad. I
Yeah.
think that
Oh, I
was a
was
big
mad.
thing,
I
is
was
it gave her
pissed.
a space and a place to be mad.
Good.
Like, hey, come in, be pissed off,
Yeah.
cuss if you need to.
Yeah.
I did.
Cry if you need to,
Yeah.
talk crap about whoever was speaking, happened
Yeah.
to be Tim
It
that
was no, it
week.
wasn't. It was.
It was.
me.
It was the first weekend.
It was me.
First weekend.
Well, okay.
So
It was me.
But you were a pivotal part of the story. And
Yeah.
that just creating the space and place to be open,
Yeah.
honest, transparent.
Yes, sir.
To work through stuff. And
Yeah.
that's, again, something we didn't, growing up,
Yeah.
we didn't have.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
grew up Pentecostal.
Yeah.
Just,
And
we
Latinos
didn't have
too, we don't
that.
talk about feelings.
That's right.
Like,
Oh, our kids will tell us we hurt their feelings. Like,
and
you
that's
know,
so.
that's
like,
foreign to us.
Yeah, you're like,
we
what are
never
those?
Came in and told our parents, hey, what you said to me earlier upset me. And,
But that means we're doing a good job.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
That we've created that space is what I keep reminding him. Of course, after they walk out, we like just look at each other like,
Y'all like punks. Y'all need to grow up.
got something for your feelings. So, anyways,
yes, we do. But we wait for them to walk out the door
I
and
get
they can't
you.
hear us.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then we'll say it. Sorry, kids. But
That's so funny.
but yeah, we didn't have that growing up.
Yeah.
So now, I had that space and I was
Yeah.
able to process with myself, with my husband, and with my pastor,
Yep.
which was nice. You know,
Yep.
and she was able to just calm me down. And it's like, no, let's talk about this. Let's seek God. There's
Yep.
something here. And
Yeah.
let's do it. And something she always reminds me is like, sometimes you're the answer to prayers.
Yep.
And us starting this, it's gonna help people.
Yeah.
And what we hope,
Yeah.
through God, obviously. And so it's not our works,
Yep.
but we're the first. We're gonna be the ones to be like, okay, let's do this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I know people are gonna probably think whatever they want. My husband always says, I don't care what people think, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like it kind of sucks, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like it's I have a peace because
Yeah.
I know it's coming from God, and I don't move unless God says move.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
and I think that's part of it. You mentioned what took us from one place to the other.
Yeah.
And one was Monica asking those questions, right? Okay, what are we doing? Where is it? How do people plug in? Like, what are we offering? And the answer kept coming back as there's really nothing
Nothing.
tangible for the back end. I love that we have, Legacy of Love. I love that we have something on the front end to
Yeah.
help support those, single moms. But on the back end, those that have already made that decision,
That's right.
there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody even wants to touch it right now.
Yeah.
And it's because it's difficult. We have, and so we do marriage, we do grief. And so, those are things that are acceptable to talk about.
Yep.
Hey, even I had an affair, or I'm struggling with porn addiction, or
Yeah.
our marriage is in crisis. Like, all those are things that at church you're okay to ask for help with.
Yeah.
But if you come in and you say, hey, I had an abortion, like, where do you go?
Yeah.
What do we say? Who do they text? Where do they? And asking those questions, the question kept coming back and just being sensitive. God saying, hey, there's a need.
Yeah,
and
for
there's
sure.
a reason you're upset about it.
Yep.
Is because
Oh,
I'm
stop
calling you to fill that need.
Absolutely.
And, and Monica will say it. She didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
This is not something
For sure.
that we want to be, talking about. Somebody mentioned, hey, do you guys considering maybe we do a video, something for us to start doing this publicly in the church? I'm like, is this something that we really want? This is the first public conversation we've ever had about this.
Are
Ever.
you serious?
Ever.
Very
So you
serious.
talk about it coming out on a public platform, we thought, hey, we'll start small. Maybe we'll start with some groups. We'll start in our church. Monica will be sharing something with staff where she works next week, but we haven't had public conversations. We had to sit down our 16-year-old, 17-year-old on Sunday and talk through our story, before it came out on the podcast, because he's going to be listening to the podcast.
And our 23-year-old too.
But it's one of those things where it's, okay, God, you're opening the doors. This is not what we expected,
Yeah.
but there's a need.
Yeah.
There's a huge need. And so, our responsibility is to say yes, sometimes unwillingly. Like I said, I got told I just need a ride. Take me to, just need a ride today.
You got set up, Josue.
And so, but it's just being attentive.
Yeah.
And so it's both having the space to process, having somebody who's willing to allow you to work through those feelings without judgment, but with direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
for
Right?
sure.
Not just
Absolutely.
throw a tantrum.
Right,
but
for sure.
Have some direction to
Yeah.
it. And then being attentive to what God's saying, why is this upsetting me? And it's because I'm going to use that thing to impact other people. And we don't know what it's going to look like yet. We're planning to start with just a small group.
Yeah.
And just that's how we're going to start, and we'll see where it goes from there. But
I've been researching curriculums and
Yeah.
things like that. So
Yeah. Wow. This has made me so emotional. Like this is like you all's story is like this beautiful, like I wish I could clone y'all. And as it relates to how to deal with something that's happened to you in church that offended you, triggered you, made you ask, like, what the hell are we doing here? Right? Because I can't tell you how many people have had a similar situation happen like yours in church. They get triggered. Pastor says something, the church responds to something, and they're like, our ministry will now be to tear down this ministry. You know what I mean? We're starting a YouTube channel to talk crap about everything, because that ain't the only thing that pissed us off about y'all. We got 30 more things that we've
we
kept
have
up.
hundreds.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But it what is that gonna do? Right? Like you actually dug into something that bothered you and found out the Lord wanted you to be the solution to it. Right? I mean, this is what happened to David with Goliath. It was, y'all just gonna keep letting him talk like this?
yes.
Ain't nobody gonna do nothing? Well, I mean, he's been out here for 40 days, which a month and a half is wild, fam. If you can't talk crap about me.
No.
You know what I mean? For 40 minutes without me saying, hey, so what we doing here? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So is it on or not? Like, you know what I mean? What we about to get into. So it's just a very man, I'm so encouraged by y'all. I'm just so encouraged by obviously the work that you've done to be able to navigate your emotions and your feelings, but for it to take you to this place that is a dire need for the church. Here's one of the things I'm fascinated with, especially in the landscape as it exists now with church, with all these pastors falling and blah 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 blah. Right. My thing that I'm like really like trying to work through, and what I'm gonna say may sound petty. I'm doing one of those rhetorical question, theoretical things. It's rhetorical, right? And it's this.